Stafford going to the end zone, reaching up and making the grab. Odell Beckham Jr. Stafford buys time. Protection is good, and so is the pass. Henderson came out of the backfield. Jefferson in motion. Henderson, nice cutback. Stafford rolling and throwing. Caught, touchdown. Stafford caught on the run. Cup, who else? Comes out of the slot to the right, looks that way, fires that way. Cup makes the grab at about the 18-yard line. Pass, Cup, got it, touchdown. Burrow trying to keep it going, gets spun down, gets it away, and incomplete. It looked like P-Ron might have had a shot to make the grab, but the Rams now running down to celebrate with a defensive play.
And guess who? Guess
of course.
Who? I mean, you don't even have to think about it. Do not even have to think about it.
Pointing to the ring finger.
Hey guys, and welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton with my awesome co-host here, Zac. How are you doing, Zac? Happy Super Bowl.
Yeah, happy end of Super Bowl, finishing the 2022 season. Everything's going pretty good. Finally getting into some rest and relaxation and not having to, consistently worry about, each and every week's football games. How are you?
Yes, the season of disappointment, for lack of a better term, has ended. Somehow we weren't the last team in the league, crazy enough. But just really rough season to go through after seeing them win the Super Bowl. A lot of injuries. I'm hoping we can get healthy. I just hope we can bounce back. Now, we had a lot of coaching turnover. We'll go into breaking news, or like in the last few hours, breaking news here in a few seconds. But, Zac, doing good. I'm looking forward to the draft, the highest Rams pick since Goff. I mean, if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what would. I mean, I can't wait to see what wide receiver, running back they're going to pick next.
I don't even want to talk about it when they have, kind of other fish to fry. I mean, maybe a running back, maybe. But, I'm really not looking forward to them picking up another wide receiver. Hopefully they learn their lesson. And, maybe we'll look at, an edge rusher or,
I mean, there's
maybe a tight end
wide receiver. If we take that, I would be very, very up for. And that's Wyatt from Tennessee. So that's the only wide receiver I'd be very excited for us to take in the second round.
Okay.
But we will get to that a little bit later. Zac, you want to tell people the exciting news, not for us, but for the Panthers?
Yeah, so it was just, we're recording this Friday night. Obviously, news tends to break Friday for, whatever weird reason. So we get to actually break the news that the Panthers are going to be hiring Rams former Ram now, Thomas Brown, as their offensive coordinator. Thomas Brown has been around with the Rams for quite a while now. He was the assistant coach, and the assistant coach and what was his other title? He eventually went tight ends, and then he went back to running backs, and that's kind of when he oversaw more of the running backs, I guess, towards the end of the season, and that's kind of when Cam Akers started to, see his trajectory go up. And I've been a big fan of Thomas Brown. I felt like he was one of those good minds with Sean McVay. He was able to lean on him and things like that. If the Rams were one of those teams who tended to fill their offensive and defensive coordinator positions from within, I think Thomas Brown would have been an excellent choice to put as an offensive coordinator with the Rams. But that's not really how the Rams work. Sean McVay really likes someone who can really challenge him and not someone who can stay is complacent. And so I really think that's kind of the reason why Thomas Brown wasn't actually, really considered for that offensive coordinator position, and why he hasn't been previously as well, and more given the title of a assistant head coach, and given responsibilities within whether it's tight ends or running backs, things like that. Details aren't finalized yet, but it's pretty well known that Brown will be moving to the Panthers. So yeah, what are your thoughts about the matter?
I think that coaching staff over in Carolina is looking very promising. I thought Reich did a solid job in Indy. He has a winning record. Was it great consistently? No, but they were good consistently, and they had a bad down year. Kind of weird way to throw out your coach when you didn't give them a lot of pieces to work with. You weren't ready to commit to a QB. Now, I don't know how much of that is Wright's fault and how much of that is the owner or the GM. Indy's been very weird. Indy has been very weird. So I like Carolina hiring Reich. I like his picks for OC and DC. I think fabulous picks. The Panthers have a lot of great quality players, especially on defense, that are young. We talked about Burns earlier this year, or last year. So I think Carolina can hit the ground running as long as they get their QB. And there's a few QBs on the market, Zach, that Carolina could go after, that could give Thomas Brown a lot to work with.
I don't disagree with you. The only problem is, and this has been brought up on several other podcasts that I've listened to, and maybe you've listened to too, is and again, I'm from Indy, so I have a lot of ears on the ground when it comes to how people feel about Frank Reich and the Indianapolis Colts organization and things like that. And what, Frank Reich in his tenure year, he only really had veteran quarterbacks. They were in for a season, maybe a little bit longer than that, and that was it. This has been this rotating door, and can Frank Reich, along with Thomas Brown, get this offensive moving with either a draft pick quarterback, or are they going to pick up someone like Carr? And is that actually going to be a successful move? I mean, obviously, I think Carr has a lot of potential, but really, in the spots that he's been put in, they haven't shown with the Raiders. It just hasn't been proven. And I could see this. If they pick up a Carr or something like that, is this going to be another Indianapolis Colts Wentz, or Matt Ryan, or Phillip Rivers was the only good quarterback that they had in this kind of cycling of quarterbacks. So, I'm kind of hesitant on that. I think Thomas Brown is going to be great at this position. My concern is, who are they going to pick up and how are they going to do it? Is this going to be, like I said, is this going to be the Frank Reich of the Colts with the rotating quarterback situation, or are they actually going to develop and grow and have a successful quarterback, long term? So
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see, Zach, what direction they go there. I think it's a good hire, though, nevertheless, and we'll see how they do. Zach, let's talk about Jalen. First off, before we talk about Jalen Ramsey and whether he's getting cut or whatever stupidness people are wanting gossip about. Quick Super Bowl reaction from me and Zach. Zach, your reaction to the Chiefs winning their second ring in 5 years.
For sure. And it was definitely the Eagles to lose. I mean, they had everything going. They had the momentum. They had the points. But it was their own stupidity. Or, I mean, really, it was their own stupidity that caused their defeat. It wasn't just the fumble. If it was just the fumble, fine. But they gave up 21 points that should not have been given up as easy as it was. 7 points was for that fumble recovery touchdown by the defense of the Chiefs. Very good on the Chiefs' move for doing that. Very smart. The other two were wide open touchdowns. No one was covering them in the red zone. and that is unacceptable. One of them, sure, maybe you could give it to them. It was a tricky play, great. But they did the exact same play just on the reverse side. Unacceptable. The Eagles defense should have been better than this. They are better than this, and they completely depleted any good chance of winning that Super Bowl. And for what, and I'm on the thing about was that a holding call? Was it not? It was a hold. Should they have called it? Yes or no? Ticky tack play with stuff with trueness on the line. Like, it did affect the outcome of this game, except that there was 3 instances where the Eagles blew it. 2 of them by the defense with wide open, within 10 yards, red zone play touchdowns. And then obviously you have the fumbled play for the touchdown. So 21 points were done as a mistake. And, it was the Eagles to lose. The Chiefs, as I've never said that they were a rebuilding year. I thought they were going to have tougher competition, and I think they did. I think we saw that they did have a lot of tougher competition. But in the end, this wasn't the refs' complete fault for losing the game. I truly think that it was the Eagles who lost it for themselves. Based on my reason.
So let's be fair to the Chiefs, or not be fair. Honestly, the Chiefs got a bye, which good on them for getting a bye. And then they faced the Jaguars in the second round. And the Jaguars, let's be face it, are still rebuilding team. They're missing pieces. Now they had a hard AFC championship. I'll give them credit for winning that game. And this was a hard-fought Super Bowl, really good game. It just sucks because, yes, that was a hold. And even if the DB wouldn't have admitted to it, I would have said that was a hold anyways. The problem is there wasn't a single holding call up to that point, and there was very clearly holds by both teams. And that's my problem with the refs. They are not consistent throughout the same game. In a perfect world, I would like them to follow the rules, be consistent throughout every game, and within the games themselves. All I'm asking for is, at minimum, be consistent within that game. Call both teams fairly. If you're calling ticky-tack holds, then call ticky-tack holds for both teams. Or if you're not calling anything, do that for both teams. I feel like the NFL needs more clearer regulations if they're going to keep on having these issues. Because no matter what Roger Goodell says, people are actively complaining about the refs, and they should be. They have been atrocious some of these games. And I don't say that about every game. I thought the championship games, the refs were pretty solid. Now, one game ended up being a blowout, but nevertheless, you got to do something about this. I don't think it was valid to call that holding. It costed the Eagles. They would have got the ball back. Doesn't mean they win, but it definitely means they get a chance with the ball in Hurts' hand.
Yeah,
and they made mistakes. That's part of the Super Bowl, is capitalizing on the other team's mistakes and minimizing your own. And Kansas City was better at that. I'm a little salty because I was wrong yet again about who was going to win the Super Bowl. I'm now 2-15. So, Zach, I'll look forward to being wrong next year. I had a pretty good playoffs, though. I was pretty spot on with who was going to win each game, playoffs-wise, outside of the Super Bowl. So I was better playoffs-wise.
Yeah, and a lot of people are comparing this to the Super Bowl last year with the Bengals and the Rams. And again, the difference is that it was a hold call. I still blame that was a hold on or a pass interference, whatever you want to call it, whatever it was called, on Cooper Kupp. The one thing, I said this last year and I'll say it again, if you're going to hold, make sure you match the gloves to the uniforms that are being worn. Don't wear orange gloves against someone who's wearing white uniforms. That's going to get called every time because that is super obvious. So I blame I blame that first. Second off, let's just also remember that the Bengals did have an opportunity to go down and score a touchdown after that. They had like a minute and 40 seconds to go down and with all 3 timeouts to go down and score a touchdown. And they couldn't accomplish that because Aaron Donald's a beast.
They just needed a field goal to tie it.
Yeah, they couldn't do that. They were either at the 50-yard line or just over that 50-yard line. They couldn't do anything. Game was over. They had a chance. They lost. Let's move on. This one, yes, I agree that, they only had 4 seconds at the end of that because of that. And again, yes, even in the Super Bowl, they weren't really calling a whole lot of ticky-tack holding plays until the last point. I get that side of it. Going
they
back
didn't
and
call a single holding call before that one.
For the Bengals and the Rams Super Bowl?
Oh, for the Bengals?
That one again was more of a they didn't do
different game, right? Like the Bengals literally got a free touchdown. If you're asking me, would you rather get a free touchdown play off of a penalty not called or a penalty and you swap that for both teams? I would take the non-called penalty to get a TD any day. And it just kills me because you did not see the Eagles get a free touchdown and then get a play called against them. That isn't what happened. Like, the Eagles really kept on getting plays called against them the entire game. Now, some of them were valid, some of them weren't. But overall, like, they were way more judged highly than the Chiefs doing. And Chiefs were doing a lot of holding on the O-line. But, they don't really call O-line holding in the Super Bowl. In our case, it was pretty, I would say, consistently fair in the first half of our Super Bowl. And then in the second half, they let the Bengals get away with a lot until our final drive. And, like, Bengals fans can cry about that all they want. They got free touchdown. If you can't win with getting a free 7 points, then I don't think you deserve to win. And you had a chance to go down and win the game anyways after that series of events. And you still want to whine. It's like, it's like the whole Saints argument. They had two times after that holding call to go down the field and win. And they didn't either time. Like, I get the argument that it sucks in the moment. It does. I think this is more of a worse situation for the Eagles than either of those two teams. Because both of those teams got opportunities afterwards to win the game after the holding call was called against them. That was not the case with the Eagles. They did not get a chance at all to play because of that call. And I think that's a situation that looks bad on the league. The other team should get an opportunity with the ball in their hands to do something outside of like flags being thrown, if that's the case, because they would have stopped them.
Especially since it wasn't an egregious penalty. Obviously,
no, it wasn't like he full body tackled him.
Right. I mean, we're talking about little ticky-tack, barely grabbing him.
I mean,
even that one. I mean, if you go back and even watch the one against Cooper Kupp and the Bengals, like that guy literally, you could see him pull back and pull himself forward to hit the ball out of his hands or to block the ball. So it was a more egregious. The Bengals Rams one was more egregious than what we saw in the Eagles Chiefs game.
It was more egregious. I don't think either of them should have been called, and the flag against Ramsey should have been called. Like, I think that cancels out in the Bengal-Rams game, and the Eagles don't get anything canceled out. They didn't get any benefit. They didn't get any flag. I know Chiefs fans will kind of whine about, like, oh, they called back the second fumble touchdown. Yeah, because that wasn't a fumble. Like, he didn't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rules of the game. That's how it's supposed to be done. And people are just kind of, I just wish the refs would be more cleaner. And you think VAR or like assistant video referees would help make this process cleaner. And the NFL refuses to do any oversight on the ground, like the refs on the ground.
The problem with those ones was that it was a holding call. So, whether they even if they didn't, or even if they threw the flag, they weren't going to pull it back because it was a holding call. So, it's going to help.
They shouldn't have thrown the flag.
They shouldn't have, but at the same time, they did. And in that case, they couldn't pull that back because it was a holding call. Whether it was a ticky-tack holding call or not, it was still technically holding by the book. And you really can't they're not going to pull the flag back saying, oh no, it wasn't holding when it clearly was holding. They can't do that, or that's really bad.
They've done it before. They've done that before.
They shouldn't do that. Obviously, ticky-tack.
They've done that.
Yeah, but they shouldn't. That's what I'm saying. If it is an egregious, if it is actually a flag, then they shouldn't be able to pick it up.
Sometimes the refs don't even know their own rules. Case in point, whenever the Rams had that double punt last year, where the guy double punted and he was clearly past the line of scrimmage. It's like sometimes
that is an instance where they should be able to say, yes, you can't do that. Someone should be able to say that. I'm 100% agreeing with you on that part. Someone that should say, yep, we need to flag that because that was bad.
We can summarize this whole segment as saying the refs are stupid.
Yeah, let's move on because we're just now fighting amongst ourselves about stupid ticky-tack stuff. Let's move on to something fun that, again, we're not going to have any great opinions on this one. Jalen Ramsey has been in the spotlight over the last couple of weeks, mostly because he's probably one of the only players within the Rams organization who is a high-profile person who is just a spicy take on where he's going to end up next. That he is leaving the Rams and things like that. So there have been talks over the last several weeks about him being traded. And just this week, we had someone who should be fired from their job for even suggesting that the Rams should cut Jalen Ramsey. What are your thoughts, Ashton, about cutting Jalen Ramsey from the LA Rams?
I guess he wants to call himself a journalist for just making stuff up. That's what's going to happen next? Is Jalen Hurts going to get cut from the Eagles? Why aren't we talking about that? Or why is Patrick Mahomes not going to get cut, Zach? Can you tell me why wouldn't he get cut?
So this was actually, so I have the actual person. It was via Brad Gagnon with the Gridiron.
Let's get serious though. Outside of cutting, trading Ramsey, I think is something that will happen. Maybe not this offseason. It's going to happen next 3 or 4 years. I want fans to get prepared for that. Now, what I would do versus what our GM would do, Snead, those are going to be different things, right? Personally, I think we should keep them until we lose our core. When we lose Aaron Donald and we lose Stafford, that's when I think we should trade them, get some value back, and then rebuild from there. Now, I understand the argument that he's not going to have a higher value than this offseason. Realistically, maybe next year, but this year he's going to be at peak value. I think you could definitely get two first rounders for him right now, and like a second rounder, if not 3 first rounders, if it gets into bidding war. Again, guys, before you start raging, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's what I want to happen. I'm just saying if Les Need says, we'll listen to offers. If we got Zach, what would it take if you're the GM of the Rams? And let's say you are open to dealing Ramsey. this offseason? What would it take for you to give up Ramsey this offseason?
I mean, if they take on his contract on top of
they would have to take on his contract. I think that would be non-negotiable. So you would have to take away pick for that.
So doing that, I would say it's going to be 2 picks. I think he's worth a first, but I think he's worth a first and maybe a second, or first and third. Not saying, to me, I think he's worth more than that. I think for Les Snead to be open to anything, it's going to be the money, and it's going to be the first and third. Or first and second. I don't think it's going to go 2 firsts. I don't think anyone is going to call for 2 firsts. I think everyone thinks he's a very talented running back or cornerback, but I don't think people really understand how good he is. And people have been dogging him all year, even though he still is the top 3 cornerback in the league.
And everyone wants him now.
And everyone wants him. Like it's ridiculous. I do want to bring up a quote. So going back to this tweet that happened.
It comes from Kevin Demoff, by the way.
Yeah. The quote that I'm going to read is from Demoff, but I do want to just say, like, I love the players I really love Twitter for the fact that we can actually hear from the players directly. I feel a lot of times we're kind of like, there's like, before Twitter and before these NFL players got really active in social media, there's always this veil. Like, we don't know what these players are thinking, but we get an insight now through social media. And apparently Jalen Ramsey's official tweet was a bunch of, laughing face emojis. And I can promise you, promise in all caps, I won't get cut. ... Now traded? ? Maybe. He then did go in and change it afterward and kind of cut that maybe part out. But it's great to see that he's following along. If you're a Rams fan, you can kind of get his personality and kind of know, like, people don't know him. They're not part of his inner circle. These people are all just guessing. I don't know if you watch, and I'm going off topic slightly, but on topic. I don't know if you watched the Pat McAfee show this week, but Aaron Rodgers was on, and whatever you think about Aaron Rodgers, one of the funny things that he said about it, about things, was like, all these people who are reporting, Scheffner and all these people, like, they're reporting things that they say they have sources, but some of these, like, a lot of these players, like, they don't have, the sources aren't accurate. Aaron Rodgers said, my inner circle doesn't talk to these people. Like, if you are in my inner circle, you don't talk to all these people. So whoever their sources are is not accurate. And so I think some of these cases, that's how a lot of these things are clickbait. If someone was like, oh yeah, what if he got cut? What teams? And teams are Patriots, Raiders, Lions, Seahawks.
He's not going to get cut. So
yeah, he's not going to get cut. But okay, so I'll read the quote. So I'll move on. I'll read the quote. And I think this quote is also getting misinterpreted, especially if you go back and rewatch the video. But so Demoff said, I think anytime you go from Super Bowl champions to a disappointing year, everyone's always wondering what's next. For us, it's getting our players healthy. It's getting back to playing at their caliber. Jalen's been a huge piece of what we've done. And I think for all of our players, it's good to be about figuring out what's best moving forward. I will let you give your initial reaction to that.
Again, I think it all comes down to what people are willing to offer. And if they're not willing to offer, like, the bare minimum of what the Rams would want, they're going to keep Ramsey. Like, there's no reason to get rid of Ramsey because of cap, just because we do have players that we could restructure, that we could extend. A combination of both. The Rams can make the money up. I think they're going to want to make a good amount up to make other moves to be competitive next year. Now, I do think that's going to be getting rid of existing franchise players. Ramsey could be one if a team is willing to offer a good enough package. I think the Lions could be a team like that. If they offer the 6th overall pick, yes, used to be ours, offer us that pick, a second pick, and like a first next year, I think that could potentially be enough to take on his cap and take Ramsey and give the Rams some capital to kind of rebuild a little bit in different areas. Is that what I would do? No, I think he's better used to keep him for a year and then get a little bit more diminished returns next year for him after we start rebuilding. Because Zach, are you still in the kind of mindset that Stafford and AD are probably going to retire after next year?
I would say Aaron Donald. I'm not 100% sure on Stafford. I think he may still have another year left. Him and Kupp have another year left. And them trying to work on that defense. I could see the defense completely shifting after this season. But I still think we still have the same core for this last season. We then transition to, okay, we lose Aaron Donald. We have to think about Jalen Ramsey. Is he still going to be there or not? And if he is, great. If he's not, we moving on. I think we all need to start planning for this. We need to all start planning. The defense is going to change after this year. Mm-hmm. But I do think that the offense could stay the same. I think that we could, well, when I mean stay the same, I think we still will have Cooper Kupp, and I still think we have Matthew Stafford, because this team is an LA team, and I've said this multiple times. This team revolves around stars. It's the star power. And right now, the untouchables. I think we have the core four. You have Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. The untouchables right now are Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. And I think actually Matthew Stafford probably falls in that position this coming 2023 season. Jalen Ramsey does. I think Jalen Ramsey falls out of the untouchable just because I think that he does bring value. I think if you try to trade Aaron Donald's not going for a 1 year somewhere else. I doubt he's going to play. I think he will always play at the same caliber, but again, I see that weird. I think him retiring as a Ram makes perfect sense. He only wanted to do this for 8 years and he's given it 10. So I really think that he's done after this year, and we reformat the defense, keep the offense, familiar, so that then we can start working on, okay, now we're probably going to look at, do we move on from, and I think after that point, after 2023 and maybe 2024, the untouchable now is, I think Cooper Kupp's now he's no longer in that group anymore. They're going to have to.
No, if we're starting to rebuild, it makes no sense to keep. How old is Cooper Kupp? He would be 29 next year, maybe.
I'll find out while you keep talking.
Yeah, but either way, regardless of his age, he's on the older side, and keeping him during a rebuilding, 2 or 3 years cycle doesn't make any sense. You're just wasting his prime. You can get picks back for him. I would love Kupp to retire as a Ram. I would love all of the great players that play with the Rams to retire, but that's not reality in the NFL. And if you want to stay adapting, and if you don't want to get stale, you got to recoup some of that value with picks.
And Cooper Kupp is already 29, so you're looking at 31.
He would be 30, and it just doesn't make any sense to put a 30-year-old wide receiver through a rebuild. Not saying Kupp wouldn't be useful, the opposite. I don't want to waste Kupp here and just have him sit until he's 33 when we have a good team again.
But I don't think he's going to be gone. I don't think they're going to dump everybody. And that's why I'm saying I think this is going to be a slow. If we go through 2023, I think that we potentially will. In 2024, I think Kupp and Stafford could still be there. Aaron Donald, yes. Ramsey, not so much. And
but
then after that,
24, I think Stafford will be retired. They're going to trade Kupp, probably get a few first for Kupp, or maybe one, depending at his age and his production.
Yeah, I mean,
and
assuming he doesn't, I mean, again, we never know how these players get. These players could also end their career early too. You don't really know what the
Kupp could retire.
He could. But going back to kind of this Jalen quote from Demoff, I mean, and if I go back and read this, hold on, let me find the quote again. But like this only came up because he was specifically asked about Jalen and about trading Jalen. You could have added anybody in here. You could say Matthew has been a huge piece of what we've done, and I think it's best for all players. Cooper has been a huge piece of what we've done, and I think for all of our players, it's going to be about figuring out what's best moving forward. I think you said about anybody. You put anybody in that. You to say, hey, do you think about trading Aaron Donald? Oh, Aaron's been a huge piece of what we've done, and I think it's best for all of us to sit down and kind of see what's best for everybody. Like, I hate overblown coverage, and maybe people think we're overblowing the coverage, but at the same time, it's GM, COO talk, and it's just
it's GM talk,
and people are just blowing it up. Obviously, they're going to hear calls. They're going to get calls. They want people to call in because they want people to feel like, oh yeah, we're if everyone keeps calling us, we're hyping up this team a bit, and that's just my thought.
We're the one team in the league that deals. We are known as the dealers. It's gotten so bad, and Jordan Rodriguez did a great job of kind of reporting this. Teams will fake the Rams getting into a bidding situation for trades just to raise up the price, and the Rams aren't even anywhere near it. And that's how bad it's gone. The Rams have been known to be trade partners. For players. I think that's going to start slowing down as the Rams readjust their model, seeing that the stock that teams have put in trades is a lot higher than when Les Snead started doing it, kind of like pioneering the trading for veteran players. Now everyone's trading for veteran players. That means the price, the market, is a lot higher than it was when Snead started doing it. Picks are worth less now than they were 5 years ago. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Snead adjusts, and I really have a lot of faith in him. He's done a great job so far.
Yep, I agree.
Do you want to talk about the future, Zach?
Yeah, let's see. So as kind of some future things I'm going to note, we are some other coaches changes. I'm going to go ahead and bring those up as we're talking kind of about the future and going into 2023. We do have a couple of other coaching changes that came up. Rams is hiring Nick Haley as the new tight ends coach. So that was Thomas Brown's area, obviously for the first half of the 22 session. But now we're going to go with Haley. He was
from the Patriots.
Yep, he's a Patriots assistant coach, and then he actually interviewed with a lot of offensive coordinating spots within the Patriots, Houston, and the Jets. So he won't be an OC, but he will be a tight ends coach, which could be very good for the Rams. Whether they decide to continue on with Higbee or they decide to move on from Higbee, I think that position needs to be a little bit more flushed out, given more opportunities. Get that position up.
I definitely think Higbee is probably going to be one of the cut candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's leaning more towards that way. Yeah, I think it's leaning more that direction. So we'll definitely see how that goes. But I think bringing in Haley, I think could definitely help in that role. Like I said, whether or not he stays or if he goes, I think if he stays, I think they'll figure out different ways to utilize Higbee, which I think could be very useful. Sometimes, not saying that I don't feel like he was utilized enough, because he tended to get a lot of targets. But I think they could do some, maybe some different things that could be more beneficial for him. The other one that I'll note is that the Rams are bringing back Aubrey Pleasant as the DB's coach and passing game coordinator. He was with the Rams from 2017 to 2020 as the cornerbacks coach. He actually followed McVay over from Washington. And then he's kind of done some other things. He was with the Lions, DBs and passing coordinator in 2021. And then he was fired. And then he went and finished in the 2022 campaign with the Packers. So we'll see how that goes. Any thoughts about that?
I mean, man, the Lions have not invested anything into their secondary outside of one, I think, first round pick like 3 years ago. I feel like their secondary has just been a lot of misses, a lot of people with injuries, a lot of turnover. So I don't know how much of that is really on him. It was kind of a rough situation to go into, let alone a rough situation to get fired from.
Yeah.
So I think he was kind of, fall guy almost. They're sticking with kneecap biting Dan. So we'll see if he works out next year, because he's going to have to make the playoffs if he wants to keep his job.
For sure. And then lastly, again, it was also kind of reported that the Rams will kind of finalize all of their coaching positions within the next week. One of the positions that we know is a hire, but we're not really sure where they're going to be at, is the Rams are hiring former Washington Huskies head coach Jim Lake. Again, there's really no known what he's going to be doing, but knowing that he was a defensive backs coach with the Bucks and Lions, and for a while before his tenure in the college realm. So we'll kind of see how things are going to go, but that's just another new Rams coach for Sean McVay.
Yep, I wish him well.
Yes, but the Rams are finally getting to finalize all their coaching staff, especially after. Oh, and then we didn't even really talk about Raheem Morris. He will be back as the Rams defensive coordinator since he did not get the Indianapolis Colts head coaching job. I think we might have touched on that briefly earlier, but to kind of round out our coaching updates.
I am definitely happy he didn't leave, because all the people wishing he was going to leave, you guys, if you would have got your wish, we would have lost like 3 or 4 more coaches. And on top of that, it's pretty slim pickings for DCs out there right now. There's almost no one left that I would have wanted. The 2 people I wanted to possibly replace Morris, which I think would have been upgrades, both got jobs already before Morris got his second interview. So it sucks for him. I think he's deserving of one. It's going to put the Rams in an awkward position if McVay retires. I'm hoping McVay sticks it out another year. But McVay retires, I would look for Morris to kind of be an in-house option. I don't know how that's going to go, honestly. It gives me vibes of the guy down in New Orleans. Not saying Morris will be a bad head coach. He just won't be a great one, if that makes sense.
I think we'll just have to see how the future lays out.
Yeah.
We could talk more about the future of what Sean McVay's future looks like. I have some thoughts, but anyways, let's talk a little bit more about the future. Obviously there's some free agents that we don't think that are going to be on the Rams moving forward. PFF did have a list of their top 100 free agents. Only 2 Rams actually made that list. You might even be surprised of the 2 that are on the list, or especially the one that's on the list. But it is our favorite safety, Taylor Rapp, coming in at 61. And A'Shaun Robinson coming in at 91.
PFF's comments on Rap are hilarious.
Is it I don't know if it's your favorite, but it says solid if unspectacular.
Oh my god. I just love how they do say he's a polarizing figure for Rams fans, even though I don't really know of anyone in the fan base who really actively supports him. There's some people who will like, I would say like I'm one of those people who would be like, he's not terrible every game. He has his games where he does fine. But overall, like, I think as a whole, the entire fan base is like, he's terrible in coverage. He's awful in coverage. He's good in the box. He's not great in the box. He's like a poor version of Jamal Adams. That's exactly what he is. He's a box safety, basically a pseudo linebacker that can come in, stuff the run, and occasionally make a decent play. But when he's in coverage, he gets his assignments blown. He misses coverages, and he just doesn't know how to communicate with the cornerbacks very well. And you constantly see him get blown past. You constantly see him get jumped over, and just like, he is not a good safety in this league. And
yeah, I mean, like you said, he's a good
nuts.
safety for kind of stopping the run, but that's about it. He's made some decent plays. He's gotten lucky a few times with a few interceptions, and I thought I had some hope for him early on in his career, but it's just again, like if you go read through all the comments, it's just like he plays okay, but it just never seems like he's great at any one thing, except maybe stuffing the run. But it is.
But he doesn't play okay. Like, his good games are him playing okay. The rest of his games are just him looking lost.
Yeah.
Hey, it's notable when he does make a good play. Right. And that's bad. I'm surprised when I see him make a good play in coverage. And I'm not just talking about like interceptions. I'm talking about just being able to track a wide receiver, being able to make sure you're covering your zone correctly. And it's like he misses tackles constantly when he's on the second level. For some reason, he's really good at tackling when he's in the box, but outside of the box, he can't tackle. He's very weird when it comes to his tackling, at least what I see. If you have a different experience watching him, Zach, please put that out there. But that's kind of like how I take him as a free agent.
I agree. I mean, it's definitely something that I don't think the Rams are going to want. PFF, or at least I think they're projecting him worth $24 million, going to another team. Good luck with that other team. The Rams don't have the capital to keep him. So all the best to him.
That's $8 million a year. He's not worth $8 million, man. That is
no. So good for him. Ashawn Robinson, he's one of those players that I do like. I think he has played well with the Rams. His potential contract would be way smaller. It's noted 2.5 with a 1.5 million guaranteed. Obviously that's something I think that's more reasonable for the Rams, especially with their tight cap situation. So we could potentially see him for at least one more season. But again, it's kind of one of those things where what are we trying to do? Are we trying to win one more championship? Then maybe yes, we want to keep him on. But if we're also looking toward the future as well, where we have to figure out who we're keeping more long term. If we do start losing Jalen Ramsey and we start losing Aaron Donald and things like that, I think we're going to have to fill in those other spots. So I take it as that. Any comments about Ashawn Robinson?
I mean, he is a solid to good player on the D-line. Not very good at applying pressure, but really good at stopping the run. His problem is he never played up to his contract. He was not worth the money we paid him. I'm just going to be frank about that. At that price tag, 3.5 for a year, I would more like to sign him around $2 million. Like $1 million guaranteed, $1 million a year. I think he's going to go more 3. I'm not against 3. It's more what he's worth. A solid run stopping D lineman who is above average. Definitely helps in the rotation. But I think he's someone you could, if you have a really good pick in the draft, you could replace him. He's a harder player to replace. I'm not saying he's like terrible or average. He's not Rap, right? He's not Rap on the D line. He is a contributor. We just have to find someone in the draft to replace him if we can't afford to pick up him for $3 million.
Yep. And then the last piece that I think we'll bring up this week is another inquiry, kind of almost. I mean, if you're a Cardinals fan, I think this would be just as the same as, maybe the Jalen Ramsey, probably not as bad because I think
D
Hopkins. Yeah, D Hopkins, I think might even be a free agent. I'd have to double check that, but
he's not. He has 2 years on his contract.
So it would be that the Rams would be trading to get D Hop, which is just interesting. A lot of people think that they would just trade 1-for-1 for Jalen and D Hop, and then they would face off each other.
We're not trading
opposite.
Ramsey in division.
Well, for sure.
Ramsey is a young corner still in his prime. D-Hop is on the tail end of his career. I still think D-Hop would be worth getting, but I don't think the Cardinals are going to trade in division. They would be stupid not to trade him for Ramsey, but they're not going to do that, and we're not going to do that. I think a more realistic player for us to pick up, if you're looking for an older wide receiver that is still great, is Keenan Allen. Because the Chargers are kind of in a really bad cap situation, and they're going to have to cut someone good, Zach. They're definitely going to have to get rid or trade someone good. And I think that could be a potential option. Keenan Allen with Cooper Kupp, Zach, like that would be a nasty duo. And then if you get OBJ on a solid deal, OBJ, Keenan Allen, and Cooper Kupp, that's the best trio in the NFL pretty easily.
So would you be surprised if Keenan Allen was the exact same age as DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, I mean, I'm saying he is more likely to get moved on and move to a NFC team versus within division, right? Like in division trades are very, very, very rare, especially if a player of that caliber and his cap hit. And I think Keenan Allen just would be a more manageable trade, and the Chargers have to clear cap space, and he's getting a little bit older. So, like, Zach, would you trade a third to get Keenan Allen?
A third? Yeah, sure.
A second?
Maybe.
That's
always a little tougher.
Tough. I think it would be worth it. Just the idea of thinking about Keenan Allen and Cooper Kupp on the same field. Now, if we didn't have Kupp, we had all our wide receivers outside of Kupp, I wouldn't want to do it for a second. But the fact that we have Kupp and his route running skills, and you mix that with the threat of Allen on the same field, man, that's going to drive DBs nuts. Just both of them cutting and destroying ankles. That ankle doctor in whatever city they're in is going to have to be on the lookout, because there's going to be a lot of broken ankles when if those two got on the same field in the same jersey. But that's my more like realistic trade that's not going to happen. But this D-Hop one's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah,
I will eat crow if we get him, Zach. I will eat crow, but I don't think we will.
And I think that is going to wrap it up for this news rundown that we just had. The only other topic was that the Rams have the 15th best odds to win the next Super Bowl. So that's where we're at currently, just coming off the last Super Bowl, which has not even been a week over. So
yeah, I will take it.
All right, so next we're going to move on to kind of our new favorite fun segment, What's Your Rams Story? So a couple weeks ago, we went to Twitter and I'll ask you all, what's your Rams story? So whether you have been a fan all your life, newly added fan, fan-weathered fan, original LA Rams fan, St. Louis Rams fan, or came into the new LA Rams, we wanted to know and kind of share your story on the pod. So we went through a couple last week. So I thought we would do a couple more this week. And then, kind of continue this trend for the next few episodes, and then we'll move on to a new fun segment and maybe add this one back every once in a while. But so the next one that I have is from Formaro, and said the answer is easy. When I was in the 2nd grade, I liked a girl in the 4th grade. I asked her what her favorite color was. She said yellow. I replied, mine too. And then asked her what her favorite football team was. She replied, the Los Angeles Rams. I replied, mine too. Sounds like he didn't actually have a team. Yeah. Wonder how that relationship went. Some of these stories are just fun, and it's very unique how we kind of all become Rams fans. You got any thoughts about this one?
Just smart man going after her heart with asking the color and then the team. Kudos, man. Props.
I mean, in 2nd grade, man, the first question you ask is what's your favorite color, and the second question you ask is what's your favorite football team. Like, man,
dude, he had to figure it out in 2nd grade.
Apparently, he knew the right questions. All right, so our second one comes from Crystal Morse at CMorse1101. Married a Rams fan. His fam is from St. Louis, and we lived there during grad school in 2002. Sorry. Been a fan ever since and have raised 3 additional Rams fans. Well, that is awesome. I am raising 4 Rams. I can't. Oh, there. 4 Rams fans right now. Yeah. So continuing to grow. I've not only converted a Colts fan to a Rams fan, but I've added 4 more through that same process.
My wife was a college fan, so she didn't really have a pro team. And I dragged her along. And after 3 years of being with me during the NFC divisional games, she was yelling louder than me whenever Cooper Kupp caught that touchdown. So a very similar story between you and my wife. Kind of dragged her into this fandom, and she cares a lot about them now, more the particular players. Mm-hmm. But she gets into the game sometimes, not as much as me, of course, but
for sure,
a little bit.
For sure. Okay, I'll read one more from Rick Ramsey. As a 8-year-old, I became very interested in sports. Although I grew up in New Jersey and was exposed to teams from New York and Philadelphia, I decided, however, to choose to root for teams in other cities. So the MVP when I was 8 was Roman Gabriel. He stood tall in the pocket, had a good arm, and was very tough to sack. I loved the helmet and was completely sold. I recall reading the Guinness Book of World Records and saw that he had the record for most owned fumbles recovered in one game. 4. The ridiculous record, in fact, that stuck in my head all those years. So it's just fun. These are all that. I did not know that. And these are all just really cool, unique stories. And it's just fun to read. It's fun to communicate. It's fun to figure out how everyone's connected to this team that we all love. So we still have a few more. If you guys want to submit more, submit your own story and for us to read them on the pod. Send them our way. You can DM us. You can also find us on our Twitter accounts. Our Twitter account is down there at East Coast Rams. Yeah, you're catty corner. I'm down. We're still figuring this out, people. So this is just cool. It's a cool segment. So you can either tweet us at East Coast Rams, or you can send us an email at feedback at eastcoastrams.com. Some of the longer ones tend to go into that mailbox. So like I said, it's fun to read and fun to do. Mm-hmm. All right, Ashton, it's time for your quick 5.
Oh, yes, more. Yeah, we need a theme song or something. Quick 5. My 5 quick kind of draft picks the Rams could pick up in this upcoming draft. Guys, as I caveat every time, we are not experts at this. I will not promise that any of these guys will be first round draftable fantasy prospects, but I will do my best to give you my kind of expertise on these people and my opinions on them. And it's just fun for me to talk about these guys. I'll start off first with the number one ranked, or kind of consensus number one ranked running back from Texas, is potentially a second round, probably late first round running back that could slide to the Rams. Bijan Robinson from Texas. He was 10th in yards, getting or 6th in yards, getting around 1,600 with 18 TDs. With a really average kind of offensive line. Zach, I wasn't really sold on Bijan. I watched 2 games of Texas last year. Wasn't really sold on him, and then I started watching a little bit more tape because there's a lot of hype around Bijan. And I'll give people credit. He looks like he has a lot of good values that will translate well in the NFL. He looks great in the passing game. And I think that's something that the Rams might be very attracted to. We haven't had that kind of Todd Gurley, a wide receiver running back, kind of Swiss Army knife type. And if he falls to the Rams, I would be kind of comfortable with the Rams taking him. I don't think he will. I think he will get picked before us. But he's an interesting guy if he falls. Then I have Darius Rush, cornerback from South Carolina. He's going to be more late day 3 prospect. I watched almost every South Carolina game last year. I wasn't personally. He had a few games where he jumped off to me off the screen, but I wasn't super impressed with him. My brother-in-law said who is a big South Carolina Gamecocks fan, and he watches them way more intently than I do. I watch them more casually. He really likes Darius Rush, says he has great ball instincts, that he's quick, he's just undersized, and then also he tested very well for the combine, or not at the combine, but like his pro day, I think it's called. He tested very well at their pro day, and he thinks he's going to do good at the combine if he goes. My brother-in-law is very high on him, so keep an eye out on him for the 6th or 7th round. So, sorry guys, throat's getting a little dry. I've been talking for a while. Stetson Bennett, QB from Georgia. Well, we already talked about the other QB in the national championship game. Let's talk about the one who has a fantastic story. A walk-on Georgia fan growing up, sits behind for 2 years, gets a starting role as QB last year, and wins 2 national championships in a row. Just fantastic. The problem with him is the team around him is so good, so stacked, that it's hard to know how good he is. I know some people who don't watch a lot of college don't understand what I mean, but it's hard to take a QB. That's why Alabama didn't get a lot of QBs taken for a while, is because they were so stacked for so long, and they had such great wide receiver talent. It kind of bailed out their QBs because their team was so friendly. Their wide receivers would be so open that, like, you can't get a good judge if a guy can make those small, tight window throws that you have to make in the NFL. Stetson Bennett is in a similar situation. He has a great story. I think he has the arm strength to do it, but does he have the smarts? He seems like he can read coverages decently well, but can he throw those tight window throws? And he's kind of like prone mistake, or mistake prone. He kind of reminds me somewhat of Jared Goff coming out of Cal. Zach, do you have any reaction so far to these 3?
So I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on them. Especially any of these who actually come to the combine. I'm going to try to cover the combine as best I can since I'm here local. But as far as the QB situation goes, the QB situation is going to be unique this year because if the Rams pick up a QB this year in any of the earlier ones, if they pick a late round, probably not. But if they pick anything, under 5 or 6, I think that might be a tell sign a little bit about maybe Stafford's future. But if they wait and pick a way later pick,
but Stafford has had injury issues, so it would make sense that they want to draft a backup in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, right?
I guess that could be true. I just think that if you're picking someone in the 2, 3s, or 4s, maybe not the 4s, but at least the 2s and 3s. And again, I'm not saying it would be his replacement, but I feel like you're
grooming someone to potentially, like a Hurts situation almost.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's the case. I think we're still looking like then this could be Stafford's last year. I don't think that the Rams are planning on grooming someone for 2 years. That situation hasn't really worked super well, it seems. But
I don't necessarily agree with that just because look at like Aaron Rodgers. He sat behind Brett Favre because Favre had injury issues. Favre had issues staying healthy. And he sat for 2 or 3 years and it worked out well for the Packers. I'm not saying whoever we get would be Aaron Rodgers. But what I'm saying is, like, you've seen teams do this before. You get a 2nd or 3rd round guy. Hopefully he can develop into something. And if he doesn't, you have a 1st round pick that you can throw towards a QB anyways. I don't think that means that Stafford is only for a year. I think it just means that they don't have faith in any of our current backups, and they really need to have someone there if he gets hurt so we don't have another wasted year.
Yeah, I just think that you could get a veteran quarterback and not waste the draft potential. If we're looking money. More for it does, but you're right, it does.
And I don't know who is out there that we would be comfortable with if Stafford goes down to win games and go to the playoffs.
We got the XFL coming up.
I think Sean McVay has had his share of spring league quarterbacks coming into the system. Someone like Anthony Richardson would be solid pickup. I don't think he'll fall to the 2nd or 3rd round. But we'll kind of see. Continuing with my 5, I have Kaylee Ringo of Georgia. He's been kind of falling in the draft, so keep a lookout for him, Zach. I think he could be a really good, valuable 3rd round pick, someone that was projected in the 1st a few months ago. So, solid. I think he has a good frame. His problems in Georgia was, again, very stacked defense, like fantastic defense. So having a good D-line, and we've seen this on our own team, having a great D-line covers up a lot of problems with the DBs. If you have a weak secondary but a good D-line, that can mask that a lot. So can he really hold up as long as he needs to in the NFL? And then Jordan Battle on a worse defense than Ringo, safety from Alabama. I really like Jordan Battle. I feel like he has great zone instincts, a little weak in man whenever I watched him at Alabama. But he very speedy. I don't think he's going to be the fastest safety out there. But he is very promising, and I think this team is going to have to go after some safeties. And Jordan Battle could be in the 3rd, 4th round pick. He's someone who could slide to the 5th, possibly. And he would be such a great pick at 5th.
And, that's a spot that we're kind of definitely circling on, trying to figure out how we're going to fill that spot if Rap does go away. When, I'm one of those people who try to be nice and be like, well, if he goes, but I'm on your page too.
I mean, he makes millions of dollars. He's made more money than I'll make in like 30 years, 40 years. I'm sure
you shouldn't feel bad for these people. Yes, I get it.
I mean, again, I I'm not trying to be mean for being mean's sake, and I think the players get a lot more hate than they should. But that doesn't mean you can't be real, and you can't be like, you haven't played up to your potential. I don't think he's a good fit here. He could do better in a different scheme. Definitely. I think he could be a lot better in like a Miami scheme where he's blitzing more often than here. So I just don't think he's a good fit with us, and he hasn't been worth the money. But again, makes a lot of money, so I'm not crying for him, Zach.
Yeah, no, none of us are crying for any of these players who make so much money that we have no idea what to do with if we had that. So with that, I think we will wrap up this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. You can always send questions and feedback to feedback@eastcoastrams.com or hit us up on Twitter. Our official East Coast Rams Twitter account is @EastCoastRams. Ashton, anything else you want to promote or tell people how to find you?
Nope, just Ramfan Ashton 1 on Twitter. Keep on interacting with us guys. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and like and post comments on Apple Podcasts if you get a chance. We really love the growth, and we're going to keep on trying to put out content. I hope this new setup, once we get it a little bit more finalized and we get used to it, I hope you guys like that we're trying to improve the quality, and we're constantly trying to make the podcast more entertaining, because we love doing it for you guys, the people who listen every day, or not every day, but like every week. We appreciate you guys the most. You guys make this worth doing, and it's a lot of fun doing it with you, Zach. So keep on liking and subscribing.
Yeah, it's turned out to be a great partnership that we got going on here. So definitely looking forward to continuing this. This does officially end season 2 of the East Coast Ram podcast. Since we're done with the 2022 season, we're going to wrap up that season. But that doesn't mean we're done. Season 3 will be coming out within the next couple weeks as we start previewing the NFL draft, the free agent moves, finalizing the coaching spots, start talking about, the off season and, all that comes with it. So, make sure you like and subscribe, like you said, to our YouTube channels. Make sure you check the box, hit that bell, whatever it is, to make sure you always get notified for all the latest things that are coming through. No more football Sundays for a while, but we are all still Ramley, and we can always still keep going. Horns up.